Hi guys, welcome back to Q2FY25-26 series. And in today's result episode, we are going to be discussing about Dixon Technologies. And you might have seen this company, right? Traditionally, this company has grown by around 100% in that growth rate for the last couple of years. And you've always seen the growth rate has been consistent, right? 190% in that range. But for the first time, we are seeing in Q2 of this year, we are seeing that the growth rate has abruptly fallen down to 29%. Matlab, पूरा का पूरा you will see that the pace of growth has come down. We will discuss in today's video if this growth rate जो fall in pace of growth हो चुका है, is it something that is that is what you can expect going forward, or is it a one time effect that we are seeing? Okay. And by the way, if you guys want to understand Dixon Technologies का business model in depth, head over to the business analysis playlist. But for now, what does this Dixon Technology do? These people are manufacturers of electronic goods. Now when I tell manufacturing, what kind of goods do they manufacture? आपका मोबाइल फोन्स, रेफ्रिजरेटर्स, वॉशिंग मशीन्स, लैपटॉप्स, जो आपका मोबाइल फोन का पीछे जो होता है वो फिंगरप्रिंट थिंग्स, ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स दे मैन्युफैक्चर फॉर अदर ब्रांड्स. ओके, नॉट खुद के लिए बट अदर ब्रांड्स सच एज यू वुड हैव सीन, राइट? आपका फोन में वीवो का फोन जो है, दिस पीपल मैन्युफैक्चर फॉर दैट, और दे हैव अ कोलैबोरेशन विद दिस बिग कंपनीज दैट आर देयर in order to be a third party manufacturer. So pure to pure manufacturing play is what Dixon is, especially in the electronic segment over here. Now, if you look at their business, literally almost 80 to 85%, depending on the quarter, but 80 majority of the आपका जो आपका जो revenue है, it is coming from manufacturing आपका mobile phones plus other EMS goods such as laptops, notebooks and all of it. And the rest 12 to 15% comes from your consumables. Now, consumables में यहाँ पे आते हैं आपका TVs and refrigerator. These are the two most important category. Now, as you can see, this entire category that is there, right? One is आपका laptops, phones, and आपका refrigerators, आपका आपका TV. This contributes roughly 96, somewhere around 96%, 95% of the revenue. The rest 4% आपका it comes from home appliances, जो आपका kitchen में use होता है, जो छोटे छोटे appliances है, that is where it comes. Not really that much of an importance. Majority is mobile phones. Now, because of this product mix that they have, right? Because 80%, like I told you, is coming from mobile phones. That is a huge category. You will always see इसका EBITDA margin जो है, right? It is in a single digit. Why? Because आपका mobiles जो है, right? It is a low margin product that is there. आप कोई भी देख लो, whether it is if you are a manufacturer, or you could be just a mere dealer in terms of mobile phones, or you could also be a brand that is selling mobile. You might not manufacture, but you have your own brand and you are selling. आप एक B2C brand हो, across a category, whether you're a B2B, B2C, or you fall in between, where you're being just a dealer or a distributor, you see that for mobile phones that is there, the margin is very low, because mobile phone as a category, it is a high volume product, not a value product. Okay, यहाँ पे आप पैसा बनाओ तो जितना volumes पे खेलते हो. So that is the thing. So always remember this when you are looking into the electronic segment. You will see that certain companies will have high margin and certain companies will have low margin. It all narrows down to the business model. It is because of the kind of products that they do. Since यहाँ पे Dixon, they cater more towards manufacturing of mobiles, इनका EBITDA margin is in a low single digit. So do not compare and be like, oh, just on the basis of margin, don't compare Dixon to other companies and be like some other company is better क्योंकि उसका margin is better. There is always a reason, and it, like I told you, it boils down to one thing, that is a business model. अभी मुद्दे का बात में आते, if you look at the Q2FY26 का result, you would see अगर आप sales देखते हो, sales grew by 29% on a year-on-year basis. अगर आप H1 और H1 देखते हो, it grew by 53%. Similarly, अगर आप इसका PAT देखते हो, PAT grew by 81% on a year-on-year as well as on a HOH basis. PAT margin, EBITDA margin, all decent, but I think the biggest question over here is, why did the sales growth fall to 29%, which the company that used to grow at around 100% उस growth rate से grow कर रहा था. अरे भाई, suddenly क्या हुआ 29%? Because when we saw at the end of Q4 and the beginning of Q1, there was no like any sort of setback we have seen in demand, because the Q4 का con call was started off in a very great note, right? Like it was very nice, the guidance was strong in terms of the plans, the capex, everything was really great. Similarly in Q1 also we've seen whatever they mentioned in Q4, that the plans that they had for the beginning of the year, that is 25-26, FY26. It was online, it was on trajectory, capex भी बहुत चंगा चल रहा था. So what really happened in the month of July? We saw this, the GST का notification that came, that आगे जाके GST का slab will be in two rates, and for many, especially for electronic goods, the GST was going to fall short, right? Or it used to go down. It was supposed to be cut. Now because of this GST का cut जो होने वाला था, this news came in July. Because of this anticipation of this GST cut, a lot of consumers defed their purchase. So whatever the purchase that they were going to do, they stalled. अगर उस category में भी, like even if in certain categories there wasn't going to be any GST का cut, right? Even in spite of that also, across the board you will see that the consumers that are there, they refrain from purchase or they delayed their purchase that is there. Okay, now इसके वजह से ये जुलाई, I think in August mid में I think this circular came. August mid से September 21st तक, this entire 1 month, as a result, sales has been flat across आपका dealers, distributors, everybody. And everybody ने यहाँ पे channel, they have stocked up their channels, they've stocked up their inventory, and यहाँ पे sale नहीं हो रहा है because consumer is they're deferring their purchases. So because of these reasons, you will see इसका जो sales है for Q2 on Q2, you see that the sales was sales only grew by 29%. Because Q2 में क्या है आपका, the entire August and September falls in Q2, right? और यहाँ पे आपका एक महीने का, think about it, पूरा का पूरा sales चला गया. And September 21st is when आपका GST का completely that notification आया कि like only for these products आपका जो GST का slab it is going to cut from X percentage से Y percentage तक. That is the only thing that happened. So you had only probably 9 more days to recover the sales after the GST cut that happened, September 22nd से September 30th तक. And this 9 days weren't sufficient to recover the loss of sales that has happened for the last 1 month. So this impact that you're seeing, right, where the pace of growth has come down, it has fallen to 29%. It is a one-time effect because of this GST. Because once this GST ka, the entire confusion has been cleared, there was this notification कि like कौन से in which category GST का rate cut होने वाला है. After that, the sales has been upright. It has been great. Again, the channel has been cleared. Distributors are stocking up on the inventories. Again, there has been no problem. So this pace of growth that you're seeing, a cutback in pace of growth, it is, please remember, this is a one-time thing, and only because of the GST ka rate cut. Other than that, if you see, everything is normalized. There is no problem with Dixon as a company. Okay. Now, agar hum baat karte, let's talk about the specifics over here. Now, if we talk about the mobile phones and the EMS ka division, which contributes roughly 71% as of H1 and 82% as of Q2, this segment, the main segment, grew by 41%. And if you talk about the consumer electronics that is there, which is which contributes 12%, which is आपका TV and refrigerator, that degrew by 32%. Okay, but what you have to look at it, the main thing, जो 80% का revenue contribution है mobile phones में, that grew by 40%. And as you remember, in the beginning of the year, they told इस साल Dixon will be spending around 1,000 to 1,200 crores, 1,200 crores in capex, out of which 500 crores has already been done. And उनका जो भी capex plan है, the first one is उनका जो the joint venture that is there with HKC, and they are putting up this capacity, right, to put up the smart modules and everything smartphone के लिए. And यहाँ पे ये जो smartphones के लिए display module बना रहा है, right, they want to increase the capacity over here and they want to cater to this. इसके लिए the first phase में they will put up 24 million per annum, and after that in the second phase for the same thing they will increase it to 60 million per annum. Okay, that is there. And if you remember Dixon earlier, अगर आप देखते हो ना, like if you had seen I think a year back also, if you're talking about it, they were manufacturing around 40 million units of phone. अभी बोल रहे with the existing capacity that we're going to come up and everything, आगे जाके in the next 2 to 3 years we will be able to manufacture around 190 to 200 millions of phones per annum. That is what they're targeting. So the scale that is there, the scope that is there when it comes to manufacturing of phones over here, that you cannot at all question. I think it's literally still the greatest. Uska other whatever JV is there, whether it is with Vivo, whether it is with Q-Tech, जिसमें उन्होंने 51% stake लिया है, everything is going on smooth, on track. All the capex is coming on track. And this Q-Tech का भी जो capex है, it will go live. Not Q-Tech का capex, but उनका जो acquisition किया, it will add on to the consolidated balance sheet starting from September 26. So overall great. There is absolutely nothing problem. उनका जो और एक manufacturing unit है for mobile manufacturing, which they are coming up in Noida, which will add 1 billion square feet जो है, that will also will be live in March of 26. That is upcoming year, that is there. So आप देख सकते हो, there is no, literally आप con call में देख सकते हो हो, there is not one word or a negative word आप बोल सकते हो which talks about demand has fallen back, demand is not great, anything. We are cautiously optimistic, not a single word. Similarly, if you see, there is no cutback in capex, nothing. So what you're seeing, this is just a one time thing. Then the second category that I told you is a consumer space, where they make this TVs and refrigerator, right, which contributes 12% of the revenue. Now this is another quarter we are seeing, where the revenue has degrown by around 32%. 32% से यहाँ पे on a Q2 basis 32% से revenue degrowth हुआ है. But यहाँ पे you will see there is a structural slowdown in terms of both TV as well as refrigerator. Refrigerator का problem है, one is monsoon season, because of it is already has been delayed. The other thing is, along with refrigerator, is the norms that is there, right? We have had a change in norms, more stringent energy change in norms that is there, which has led to the again the same thing, deferment in terms of purchase from the consumer side. Okay, similar to what has happened with the fan ka space, in the last year or the year before that, we've seen everybody who's catering, especially the wire and cable companies, they suffered a lot because of this, fans ka ek emission change, norms change hone ke wajah se. So similar things that are happening. But yahan par bhi these people, they're putting up, they're venturing into deep freezers. Last time they ventured, now they're going into mini coolers. yahan pe 50 liter ka refrigerator, 100 liter ka refrigerator, double door refrigerator ye bhi banane laga hai. And this also, you will add to the revenues and the product portfolio in the upcoming quarters. Okay, so overall agar aap dekhte ho, pura ka pura agar aap dekhte ho, whether it is in terms of capex, whether it is in terms of revenue or your margins or your operating leverage jo hai, there is absolutely no problem in terms of Dixon. At least when I tell no problem, jo bhi unhone bola hai at the beginning of this year, right, and until now, that is said, the execution has been brilliant, execution has been top notch. It is just that in between, in this year, एक थोड़ा सा hump आ चुका है, with this GST का issue that is there. Pace of growth has not really come down again. It is only a bump in a year. But here is the thing, the problem with Dixon is what, you might see that Dixon का अभी जो है, right, again let us go back to that growth versus P, the video that I've done, growth versus P. We were discussing about how P is nothing but a reflection of growth ultimately at the end of the day. Now earlier आप देख सकते तो Dixon तो low growth low P engine था, किसी को फर्क नहीं पड़ता था. After that it came to case 1, right? Case 1 में क्या है, high growth low P engine, and it continued, they put up plans, they changed their model and everything, they continue to execute करता गया, high growth engine रहता रहा. Then it shifted from case 1 to case 2 because it became a high growth high P engine. The reason it went from high growth low P engine to high growth high P engine, what? Purely one thing, execution. It continued to execute for a very long period of time, and it has been a brilliant execution that they have done, right? अभी क्या हो चुका है, now like I told you, अगर आप case 2 में हो, high growth high P, यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा भी आंच आता है ना, it becomes a negative factor over here. Like, if you have to sustain in this high growth and high P engine, and if the stock has to make money over here, it has to be a flawless execution. Like, with or without your fault also आपका execution में problem नहीं आना चाहिए, ठीक है? आपका operating leverage you shouldn't lose. You shouldn't have a little bit drawdown in terms of your EBITDA margins. Nothing. You have to be absolutely flawless over here. So यहाँ पे क्या हो चुका है, like I told you, with or without your fault. GST is not their fault what happened, unfortunately, right? Absolutely not their fault. It is a one-time thing that has happened, and it is just a part and parcel of the business. No business can have, a straight quarter. There will be certain times and events can happen, in the business ka journey, where, the entire journey becomes from linear, it becomes a little bit tuta-futa. So here also the same thing, right? This entire GST ka thing, that puts a little bit thoda आप बोल सकते हो in this high growth high P engine में एक थोड़ा सा break डाल चुका है because of this GST का issue. Because now market, we do not, although, the management is very confident, we do not see any cutback in capex, absolutely brilliant in every term. There is a little bit, when this pace of growth comes down, even for whatever reasons it could be, right, even if it is a one time thing, क्या होता है ना, एक थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे stock में एक थोड़ा break आता है ultimately, right? That is what happens because you do not know also, right? There is equally also, as much as there is a chance that the pace of growth will go back, it is or what do you tell, the pace of growth can go up, there is also a small chance, the probability is never zero that, the pace of growth can come down or it can sustain the rate, right? It is never zero, right? I mean, there is also a small chance, like, who knows, maybe channel bay, the inventory has not been cleared by Q3. It can happen, we do not know. So that becomes a little bit of a confusion. So again in Q3, when you see that the pace of growth comes back, again it continues to be that high growth, high P engine, with a roaring effect. It will be like riding the tiger once again. But until the meantime, when the things don't become back, come back to normal, when the market doesn't get that confidence until that Q3 result, you can expect, a little bit of, in this high growth, high P engine, a little bit tapering that can happen. So that is the only thing. But purely speaking from a business perspective, that is there, absolutely brilliant, absolutely top notch performance. Yes, of course, at the current valuation that it is there, it becomes very very hard, to sustain this valuation, right? It becomes very hard in order for them to sustain the valuation that, that the market has rewarded them for their own performance. They have to continue to perform at this rate. Absolutely, there is no go over here. So let us see in Q3 ये क्या करते हैं. Q3 में hopefully, the pace of growth goes up. It should go up because, Q3 May, the Diwali season, the Dasara season has been great. The monsoon has been great. Everything has been great. So let's see how they do, right? So that's that for Dixon, guys.